Hello everyone, it's great to be here at ChefConf, and today with me is Nadia. She's an engineer in AWS Opsworks for Chef Automate, and I'm an engineering manager in the same team. And today we want to put some light on Chef Solo, some use cases on that, and what Chef Automate could give you in that setting. And maybe even if you want to, we can tell you how to migrate over. And so let me get started with everyone. So what to expect from that talk? So there are people that are using Chef Solo not only for testing but in large environments. So they're running that for all the infrastructure. If I may ask, someone of you is using Chef Solo for all the infrastructure management? Oh yeah, you see. There are a couple of people doing that. And I would like to compare how to use Chef Solo in a production environment and what you could benefit from if you're using Chef Automate. And also how to use both things in combination, because you can do that pretty easily. And Nadia will guide you through a full migration of that. How do you use Chef? So for most people, the answer is they use a Chef server. With or without Automate. And AWS Opsworks for Chef Automate is giving you a full managed Chef server with Automate on it. So you just go to our console, you get that in 3 clicks, and you have that up and running in AWS, which is pretty nice. And what does the Chef server do in that environment? So the Chef server stores all the state of your entire infrastructure, all the nodes coming in, they send the OHI data that you know, and you can then discover from every node information about all the other nodes. The data is available for all the connected nodes, and Automate gives you on top deep insights and statistics about your whole infrastructure, which is nice because you want to know about all the chef runs doing and maybe some history about them, where their nodes that are failing, all those things. And the alternative would be using Chef Solo, and Opsworks has a long history doing that actually with a lot of customers. AWS Opsworks Stacks is that product that is using Chef Solo under the hood. And the cool thing about Chef Solo is you run them in isolation. You can have the nodes completely isolated from each other. They don't know anything about each other. You use Chef Zero server on that. That's an in-memory Chef server, so you have all the feature set of a normal Chef server just on that one box, but you have no clue about your surrounding. And that's why it's called Solo, because it's pretty lonely there, because you don't know anything about your neighbors. Why Chef Solo? So usually people using Chef Solo in the development cycle. So something like Test Kitchen and Vagrant, that's the normal way to do that. You want to check out if your new cookbook is working, if the recipes are working, if they converge, and you want to have kind of a unit test environment where you have no state before you actually figure out if your cookbook is working. Also, Solo gives you the easiest way to use the Chef DSL to configure your nodes. So if you just want to have some kind of abstraction to install packages, configure services, making them up and running, the easiest way would be to grab a recipe and run the Chef Solo on a node, and everything is set up for you. The good thing about having no dependencies between nodes is it's easy to scale, because there is no single instance that needs to keep up with that scale of your infrastructure, and that's why some larger clients actually use it. So, for example, with Opsworks Stack, we have customers from small startups up to big enterprises. They use it for large fleets. And one of the customers that is using that outside of Opsworks Stacks is Airbnb. They had a nice write-up blog post about that, and that they're pretty happy with that. But I think if you're going that route and you either want to do it yourself, or even if you're using one of those solutions that are out there, you might miss out some good things that we talk about. So how do you bootstrap your nodes? That's not really easy to answer with Chef Solo. How do you share your recipes, your roles, your environments, your secrets? That's do it yourself. How do you do your development workflow? How does that look like? How do you trigger a chef run that you might want to have ad hoc? And the most important one for me is how do you get feedback from all the nodes that you're running with Chef Solo? For me, this is the most critical part. If you run it only on a single instance and you have no back channel, you will not know if everything was configured correctly. So for that, you need to build something. This is a rough slide about the comparison of both. If you're running Chef Solo, the bootstrapping is usually done with user data. So you just install the Chef client and trigger that Chef client after it's booted up, right? You can do either that, or you do it manually via SSH into an instance, installing all the Chef software, and then you can run the Chef client on it. With Chef Automate or Chef Server, you have a tool that is called Knife, and most of you use that for nearly anything you're using with the Chef Server. And there's Knife Bootstrap and Knife EC2 Bootstrap that gives you a new machine, does the key exchange for you, and applies the run list that you want to run. How do you share recipes between all the nodes that you're running? Maybe you're running 500 nodes with Chef Solo. They all need to somehow get the same recipes to be configured. So, of course, we're all developers, so we're using version control or using S3 to package everything up into an artifact. And then you can grab that from every single node and apply this. If you're using a Chef server, you have Git built in. So you deliver your cookbooks to the Chef server and all the nodes connected to the server getting their cookbooks from there. How do you know the state of your infrastructure? That's tricky, right? I said that everything is in isolation here. And because that is, you need to care about the information that you want to share. So either you put information that you know about your infrastructure into your code repository where you have your cookbooks so that you can share that across. Maybe you want to have certain environment variables set, you want to say for this environment I want to have this amount of node connections possible to my SQL server, things like that. You need to share that. You can have somewhere a storage of JSON data that you can grab and transfer into database or anything else, but you need to take care of that yourself. And that's much better solved in a Chef server, where you can use Chef Search to query all information across the whole environment that you have. Chef Search gives you the ability to query every single node that is connected to the server, and you have all the information that you need from the OI data. And on top of that, you can have databases where you have this context knowledge that is only for you and your application important. You can put that into the Chef server and is accessible for all the nodes in every Chef run. And why that is important, Nadia will talk about it a bit later. What about triggering Chef runs? So in Office, we had an answer for that, and that's lifecycle events. What we do is that we react on changes that are happening to your infrastructure. So new nodes are booted up in that cluster. We recognize that, and we trigger a Chef run across all the nodes because we have an active instance, an agent on each of the instances, so that we can actually trigger a Chef run. So we have multiple lifecycle events. If you want to look that up, that might be interesting if you're interested in that. The other way would be just running a cron that you would also use when you're using a Chef server. You have something that is applying the cookbooks every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes is the default if you use the Chef client cookbook. So you continuously apply the configuration. So that also gives you the confidence that your instances are always configured the way that you describe them in your cookbooks. And no one can just SSH to the box, change some configuration, and they're kind of out of sync, right? So applying them over and over again actually gives you the confidence everything is compliant to what you expect them to have. With Chef Automate, you also, or Chef Server, you also have the ability to use Knife SSH to trigger a Chef run, or you're using the push-off plugin that is pretty popular. What about the development workflow? That's different. So that's very different. If you want to use Chef Solo, you need to somehow figure out how you want to work with your Git repository to make sure that your cookbooks are developed, tested, pushed to maybe a branch, like Airbnb is doing that, and then on all of your Chef Solo nodes, you're checking out the branch that is maybe your development environment or your production environment, and you kind of separate what kind of cookbooks are running by branching. That is one way to do that. But that's all something that you need to figure out with your team what works for you. There's not enough guidance on how to use Chef Solo on a large scale like that. If you go with Chef Automate, there's a new tool that's called Workflow. I guess there were a couple of sessions around Chef Workflow here in the ChefConf. So it deserves its own session, so we don't go too deep into that. But that describes the full CD pipeline from doing a recipe or a cookbook, checking it in, one of your other developers is giving you a ship it, and it's bubbling through the pipeline, a lot of tests, and it's going through several steps until it will be pushed to production. So this is a very nice laid out workflow that you can do, and that's fully supported with Automate. And for me, as I said, the most important part is the run result reporting. So it doesn't help you if you run across 400 nodes a chef recipe and you have no feedback channel that tells you if it actually converged or not. So you're a bit in a black box scenario, and you just hope that everything works. Of course, you wouldn't do that, right? You would build something that helps you with that. For example, you can use something like StatsD or AWS CloudWatch metrics, where you can push events to say, hey, Chevron failed on that node, and you can dig deeper into that. Opsworks has tools and answers for that gives you the exact run result that you can introspect, and it tells you if it converged or not. With Chef Automate, that's going on a completely different level. So with Chef Automate, you have historical data about every chef run that was running, and you know exactly which node failed, which resources there are, what kind of attributes are in there. You can really go deep into every single node and figuring out why it might not work or why it actually works. And just to recap, so with Opsworks Stacks, we give you all the tooling that I just spoke about that you would build yourself if you want to run Chef Solo in a large scale. That is reporting through the Opsworks UI that tells you if the node is up and running and fine, or if it is unhealthy. We have the run results in S3 that is linked from each of the nodes that you can go into, and you have CloudWatch logs for further introspection. We have this event-based lifecycle system that triggers chef run with a specific run list on setup, on there's a new node coming to your cluster that's called configure, or on tear down where you might want to ship the last logs from that node somewhere before you actually tear it down. And you can also do ad hoc chef runs with Opsworks and even application deployments that are done with a chef recipe. And I think Opsworks Stacks was with a very simplistic thing in mind. We wanted to enable people to use the Chef DSL to configure their cluster in AWS and to manage that through one console. So you wanted to have stacks and layers, you set up your application, you organize it by stacks and layers, and you start instances, stop instances, you have auto-scaling and auto-healing in place. So this is giving you a lot of benefits just using Chef Solo in Opsworks, and it's free. The downside is there's no equivalent to knife. So if you go through any tutorial of Chef, at some point there is some knife command that will probably not work with a Chef Solo use case. Also, the Chef search is limited. We inject a lot what we know about the stacks that you're running in AWS. So we give you also information about the RDS database that you have in place, and maybe your EBS volumes and so on. So you have a little bit more context knowledge about AWS, but you don't have all the OI data that you usually would expect. And it's not fully compatible with community cookbook. So if you use Opsworks Stacks or Solo in general, things like the MongoDB cluster cookbook will not work. So because it expects to be run within a Chef server so that all the nodes can be set up. Okay, how to choose. So if you're just configuring your infrastructure with the the Chef Office stacks will give you a lot of benefits, and you can go very far with that. You don't have to think about the server piece, scaling, all those things. That's all covered for you, and it's free. So if you just get started right now with Chef, that might be a good way to just explore that space. If you want to have the latest and greatest Chef experience, you want to do all the new tools that Chef is coming up with all the time. If you want to have deep introspection to a large cluster, if you want to know in-depth what's going on in your infrastructure, Chef Automate gives you probably the best experience. And to get that one, the easiest way is 3 clicks in the Office console and you get Office for Chef Automate server. And now I would hand over to Nadia, and that is a bit more technical and going about the migration.
Thank you, Mark, for a very clear comparison between Chef Solo and Chef Automate. And yeah, now before we start getting our hands on the migration from Solo to very big community of Automate and where all the nodes are together, I have 2 good news for you. Very good news. If you haven't had good news today, you're getting this too for free. First of all, unlike other migrations, this one should not be scary. It's nothing like black and white that you prepare for several weeks, you write some parts from scratch because you hadn't had it in the previous system, you prepare, you test, you double check, you find some other bugs, you find some other system that you didn't move, and then one day you are like, okay, let's do it on production. There is nothing like this. There are basically 4 steps how you can migrate, and even if you're not sure whether you want to migrate, whether you saw some really nice pictures of Chef Automate, you saw a lot of talks, how great it is, but you're still very comfortable with my Chef Solo setup. You can just make your Chef Solo report to Automate, and then see what kind of insights you can get, and then decide whether you actually want to migrate, whether you see some impact for you, for your system, and some benefits. So, getting a little bit overview over the whole migration that I will be talking today. As I mentioned, it's about 4 steps. First of all, you need to move your cookbooks to the Chef server, because previously you had it somewhere in Git repositories. Maybe they were scattered. They need to be in the Chef server so nodes can have access to them. Then you bring in nodes, so they can talk to Chef server knows about them. Then you set up environments and roles. This is pretty easy step. We're going to skip it today, actually. And then you bring in workflows that will complete the whole migration and have all your experience completed when you work with Chef Automate. Because workflows are actually moving your cookbooks changes to the Chef server so it's available to nodes. And yeah, this is the final result that we would expect after the migration, if you have a full migration. You have your nodes checking in with Chef server. You have your workstation where developers are working and changing cookbooks. With the delivery track, it gets through the workflow, delivered to the Chef server, and later pulled to nodes. So yeah, if you just want to take a look in how it will look if you will migrate, you can just add Chef Automate on your current Solo infrastructure and report it, your Chef Solo runs to Chef Automate server. I will come back to it in a second, because before we start talking about it, we need to get Chef Automate server, right? The easiest one would be outsource to Chef Automate. You don't need to set up. You go through 3 steps, multiple answers, questions, and you wait for 10 minutes until it's up and running, and you have it working with some extra perks on top, like backups, continuous health monitoring, maintenance, where we make sure that your Chef server, Chef Automate server, running the latest security updates, and also we upgrade a version of Chef Automate for you. And besides that, you just click the button, you put in region, whatever you need to have, and then you have your service here. As well, since it's on the AWS, you can benefit a lot from all the AWS infrastructure and services that we have. Okay, so if only deep insights, what you should do. Getting Chef Automate server, and then getting your delivery token from the etc delivery RB file. It will be on your Chef Automate server. You can SSH there and get the token. And then you configure your data collector to report your chef runs to the Chef Automate. That's pretty much it. The next run, your node will be in Automate. As you can see on this screen, you have a node name, you have check-in time, when was the last check-in, you have the uptime, some basic data, general data platform, environment where it's running, and once you have several more solar runs, you will, in the detailed node view, you will see more OHII data. You will also see when the chef runs were performed. You will see how they performed. You can see what went wrong, if something went wrong, if something is fine. Then you can see that it was fine. Okay, so imagine you take a look at this. This is something that you need. This is something that you need for your cluster. And you decide to migrate. So you need to, once again, bring your cookbooks to Chef server and reconfigure your Chef clients to use the Chef server. Then you have clear benefits from Chef Automate and workflows, environments, roles, all the historical data, very clear overview on all your system. Okay, let's move. This is how I imagine where we are moving from. So you have workstation that runs Chef Solar using Git for storing cookbooks. Chef Solar runs in your instances, hopefully with Chrome, and then checks out it from Git or some other way you deliver the cookbooks to the node. When we were launching Chef Server, when you launch a Chef Server with Opsworks or Chef Automate, besides credentials to access the UI, you're getting also Starter Kit. Starter Kit is simple archive. I really recommend to download it, unpack it, and you will see clear folder structure where it's already set up to communicate directly to your Chef Automate. And besides cookbooks, environments, roles, folders where you need to store your cookbooks, environments, and roles, you have a very interesting file that is called userdata.sh. This is something that we prepared for you, so you can include it into the boot of your system as your node, and node will automatically check in with Chef Automate. You don't need to do anything. Especially it's good when you use auto-scaling. You just put it in the launch configuration, up it's there. So, okay, let's start. First, let's move cookbooks to Chef server. You simply copy them. Very easy. You move it to the folder on the starter kit, and then you do knife upload it. Wait for a little. It's on the Chef server. You are done. Let's go for the second one. Bringing in nodes. This is a little bit more complicated. Yeah? You need to know where your nodes are. I hope you know. You need to collect them in one place. Basically, to bootstrap a node and to bring the node into the Chef Automate server, you need to know the node name and the IP it can be reached. If you have some different SSH key access or different username that you have access to the node, you also rather collect it in one place and then just look through a file and check it in with the node bootstrap. Yes. So, this is like an example of a file. You have a node name, node IP, user, SSH key location. You just simply node bootstrap. You can also, if you already know how you want to organize your cluster in environments and roles, if you're having this picture in your head, you can also include it in the Connect bootstrap. Then you will save some time introducing nodes into roles or environments later. Yeah, you wait for a little, they run through, and they show up in your Chef Automate UI. It's actually the same view as you had when you were just reporting telemetry from Chef Solo runs into Chef Automate, but now they're running with the Chef server. So you don't need to organize them and making them checking out your cookbooks from somewhere else. It's all on the chef server. They're talking to the chef server. They have all the infrastructure there. High data historical runs. If something fails, you know what fails. If everything is good, you know that it's good. Now comes benefit. Basically, that's where you can stop. If you don't want to spend more time, you're already pretty good set up. The most benefit, you have it here at Chef Search. Your node, when it comes up and runs cookbooks, it already knows everything about your cluster, what's going on there. You can include it into your recipes. Hopefully you tested before you put in the recipes with the chef shell. And you can run it there. It's told directly to Chef Automate and Chef Server. You run it there, you see what data you have in your system, you make the search correct, you put it in a recipe. So now your web applications can know which databases are up and running, for example, right now, and configure themselves to talk to those databases. Or you can also use it in your scripts using knife search. Another good thing is databags. You can create them in the Chef shell. You can share it, so the databags is to share data, global data between all your nodes, right? And you can iterate over them in your recipes as well. So that's pretty much it. If you want to go forward and bring workflows, that I will actually highly recommend, because it's a very unified way to bring your cookbook changes to your nodes. I skipped, as I mentioned, environments and roles because it's very simple setup. Just look up in the documentation. It's straightforward. You know how you want to organize it, and you will set it up in like a couple of minutes, I assume. And with the next Chef Solo run, it will be in the Chef Automate also visible. So now we need to set up, if you are setting up workflows, you're setting up delivery truck that delivers, pushes your cookbook changes through the pipeline. It roughly looks like this. It's almost full CD pipeline. There are two steps that you need to do manually, or manually approve and manually deliver. Which makes actually sense. Like you were working through the whole week on your changes to a cookbook. It was approved by your colleagues. It built, it ran tests, it ran smoke tests, and then it's ready to be delivered. But it's Friday evening. You would rather go and drink beer, right? You don't want it to be going to production and having some of your weekend plans maybe screwed. Hopefully not, and most likely not, but still. You would feel rather better if it will go out on Monday. So you have your nice weekend, you come back on Monday to work, push the button, it's up to production. After several more stages. Just to make sure that nothing broke during the weekend, right? So, just to recap, that's where we started. We have our really lonely nodes running Chef Solo, knowing nothing but what you actually told them, with maybe some shared files or configurations. You had your workstation, you had your cookbooks and Git. Then you moved your cookbooks into the Chef server once you got the Chef Automate. Then you moved your nodes into the Chef server. And then you set up the delivery truck in workflows to deliver the changes you had to your cookbooks, to Chef server, and then it would later be picked up by your nodes. So that's pretty much it. And the second good news that I didn't tell you before, and you didn't tell me that I only told you only one good news, is that there is nothing heavy talking or coding. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that there were no walls of code, right? There was nothing that you would be like, wait a second. It's pretty straightforward. You know your nodes, you know your environment, you know how it should be. You simply move it. And as I mentioned, you can already stop on after the first two steps and wait with the workflows later, because maybe you have some other process that was already done for several years. It's very unified. Everyone knows about it. So you might need to wait for a little, just for yourself. And yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay. So we are around in our booth, in our AWS booth. So if anyone wants to talk to us directly about their use cases and how that would apply to them, we are happy to answer for the rest of the day. And yeah, we are around. Thanks a lot. And
See you around.
see you.